Good morning, everybody. Orange J here with another War of the Visions video, and today we're going to take a look at 120 Whisper, a unit that I was really excited for because she's a fun unit, and I know she has a bunch of fans out there. So I got her to 120, I got some Esper resonance up that I wanted to use, and I'm going to show off how I build her, how I've been using her in Arena, and she's been very successful for me. But there are some traps out there you have to avoid. There's a lot of penetration in the game now that wasn't in the game before, so we're going to look at that stuff, and yeah, let's get to it right now. Okay, now the first thing I want to show off is her skills and what skills you're going to want to focus on depending on what type of build you want Whisper. Yeah, her name's not Esper. Her name is Whisper. Anyway, here she is. This is her skills and what you want her to run on and off, depending on the role you're going to have her play. So in her night job, she has some really interesting moves, namely Quadra Break and her new move, Protection Break. These are really good breaks, and if you're running a Bruiser Whisper, which we'll talk about in a little while, these are going to be like her core skills. If you want her to do some damage and give your team a lot of utility as a debuffer, I think this move and Quadra Break are where it's at. However, I've been using her as a tank, in which case I have them both turned off, and I'm going to show you a fight here in a minute with both of those abilities off and what she can do. Divine Shelter is a fantastic move for either form of Whisper. This is an HP buff with Protect and Shell and Regen on it. This is fantastic. Like, what Bruiser, what tank does not want Protect, Shell, and Regen? I leave this one on in no matter which build I'm using for, and the AI is pretty good at using it. The AI will use this on the first turn unless two criteria are met. One of those criteria is the Spellblade buff, Resist Magic. Here's how Whisper's AI works in this case. If you have Resist Magic on, and Whisper has a chance to cast this buff on herself and someone else, specifically someone in a higher priority slot in the team comp, she will use Resist Magic. If she cannot target somebody else with this buff, she will cast the Protect, Shell, Regen buff on herself and look to cast Resist Magic on another turn. So if you want to run her as a magic tank and get this buff off, you're going to want to have somebody standing next to her on her first turn. Like, for example, if you have a unit walk up to her, right? And they cast a buff on her because they walk up and cast Atonement from Dwayne or something. Whisper will then cast Resist Magic on both herself and Dwayne and then advance towards the enemy. This is what you want her to do. Whisper's move and jump is only 3-1, so she needs to not waste turns roaming around the back line. You need her going forward. So if you're going to use Resist Magic, you kind of have to think about it a little bit. Taunting Spell is another big one for her. If you want her to tank, this is her only way of gaining hate. Now, it's a good way of gaining hate. It has nice range, it hits in an AoE, it scales off of magic, which opens up her vision card options a little bit, I think, and she likes to use it. So, with Tank Whisper, I leave Taunting Spell on, and I turn everything else off. This is the only attack move that I use on Tank Whisper, and the drawback here is it only has 3 uses. So her biggest knock as a tank for me is her hate generation. You have to use Taunting Spell, but she can do it. Anyway, let's cut to a fight and let's look at how she performs there and kind of talk over some action. All right, now in this fight, here's the comp that you're about to see. Ruinstern is in the group and Dwayne is in the group. This is a slashing damage, blow the enemy team off the map with Ruinstern and Dwayne comp. And Ruinstern, importantly, is running Star Burial Pendant. This will move him to Whisper on turn 1 to cast Starry Veil on her. Dwayne is running his buff from Abyssal Dark Knight, Atonement. This will move him to Whisper to buff her, and with her being the slowest person in the group at 86 agility, which still isn't bad, she will then have an opportunity to buff the whole group with her magic resist buff and then move towards the enemy. This is the important kind of thing you have to think about with Whisper, and we'll talk about it more during the fight. For her support abilities, she's running Providence of Light. This is magic attack resist and light resist, and HP up just to make her more tanky. I'm not giving her a weapon at all. We're getting Spirit and Slash resist from her Platinum Helm. We are getting magic resist and Spirit from Titus's necklace, and we are getting a lot of agility from the Bewitching Boots. Now you combine that with the vision card setup here, Solidus, plus more slash resist from Siren, plus more magic resist from Omega, and walking into this fight, check out Whisper's stats. She has 85% slash resist and 72% magic resist. That 72% magic resist will be 100% after she buffs herself on turn 1. That makes her resistant to slashing and magic, and this is the kind of build you're going for with a tank Whisper. Okay, I've talked about it enough, let's go watch it succeed. Okay, now you see the team we're fighting here is Dwayne, Warrior of Light, and Black Rose Helena. These are units that are both slashing units and magic units. One thing you have to watch out for with Dwayne is he does have access to Dragoon Subjob, which can catch you off guard. Same with Warrior of Light. But otherwise, these are the two attack types that were built to deal with. Now watch these early turns. Dwayne moves over, buffs Whisper. Ruinstern moves over, buffs Whisper. And then watch what Whisper does. Buffs the whole group. Magic attack resist buff. Walks forward, Shining Sword, 459 damage. She literally just doesn't care about Warrior of Light's attack. And you're like, well, that's Warrior of Light. He's a tank. Nobody really cares about his attack. Well, he can actually hit kind of hard sometimes. Let's watch this play out a little bit more. This is what you need her doing on turn 2. Taunting Spell. Now, let's back that up because you're like, hold on. Did she just kill Black Rose Helena? Well, watch this. Dwayne hits Black Rose Helena for a nice chunk of damage, right? It leaves her at something like 25% HP. That's a slashing dark type attack. Whisper is going to follow that up with a magic dark slashing attack. So the chaining is really good. It actually hits Helena for respectable damage, and Whisper's not even carrying a weapon. She now has hate, she has now separated herself a little bit from the group, and she's in a really good place to tank. Now let's watch the rest of this play out. Dwayne moves forward, Rising Twilight on the enemy Dwayne, great. Another nice combo from Whisper, who's sitting here just not caring a whole lot about the damage. Here's Death Scythe from the enemy Dwayne, his limit break, double hit attack, so they're building up a little chain on her. She still doesn't care. Now, luckily for us, Ruinstern does not die from that. He can then come in, finish off Dwayne, then our Dwayne moves in, starts working over the tank, and we're just going to proceed to work over the enemy Warrior of Light and pick up this win. This is a good win, and Whisper's going to end this fight pretty dang healthy after eating basically everything the enemy did. Okay, it's going to be an Omega summon to finish it off, but I think you see the power of that comp, right? I think you see what you want Whisper to do in a successful run. Now, what can go wrong? Let's talk about that next. Okay, now we're back in the client. I want to show off some things to look for that are like traps you can run into that will catch you off guard, because they caught me off guard when I was testing out Whisper. One of them is Big Daddy Zazan, right? Now, Big Daddy Zazan, UR Zazan, has slash attack resistance penetration in his master ability. So that's already pretty good. But if he's also running with the Solitary Lion Vision card, check out this right here. Earth unit slash attack resist piercing rate up 35. So if it's Zazan and like some Earth slashing units, watch out with your Whisper. They can cut through that slash resist penetration. I had a Zazan almost one-shot that exact same Whisper that you saw in a video earlier. So that stuff is dangerous. In general, you need to kind of, if you're going to run Whisper, right, you have homework to do. And that homework is who can penetrate what. Like, look at a team. And if you see somebody like a 2B, for example, let's go look at 2B's vision card. And when I say 2B's vision card, I mean this one right here. Look at what this has on it, right? It has slash attack resist piercing rate up 20 for 2B. So 2B is another kind of trap unit. And you might be thinking, now hold up, that's just 20 slash attack resistance penetration. I'll actually be fine against that. But you also have to consider sub-jobs. A lot of people run a unit like 2B on the Monk sub-job, so she can hit with those striking, punching damages. So if you're built, it's going to be really tough to build a lot of strike resist. With strike resist is one of the harder resistance types to build in the game, so 2B, not necessarily a great opponent for Whisper. However, most mages, Whisper is going to do pretty good at. Yes, there are some problems out there. Namely, like if we go to equipment, the higher magic resist that your unit has, the more effective an item like a Cypress Pile is going to be. that 20 magic resist piercing rate scales really well with the person who's hitting its magic resist. So if Whisper has 100, you're actually getting a 20% boost from this item, and combine that with some like buffs in the game, with some units with magic attack piercing in their kit, and you could be in for a little bit of trouble. However, I was generally pretty safe against magic teams, right? Like, even if they had some penetration, sure, they might be able to drop 1500 damage or 2000 damage. That's fine. Okay, now another really important thing to consider is the map, specifically the size of the map. You saw on the current arena map that it's a really tight map. So what you can do on that map, and let's pull it up on the screen right here, it is Castle Interior. On a map like Castle Interior, you're basically going to get one turn of buffing and then be engaging the enemy. So you can set Whisper up to cast her magic resist buff, then go taunt. Or you can set her up to have nobody around her, cast her protect shell region, go taunting spell, and just proceed to beat up the enemy. That's fine. Ideally, a map like Leonis Castle Archives, or a map like maybe Ancient Ruins 4, where you have about 2 turns of prep, is ideal for Whisper. She can get her magic resist buff on, she can get her protect shell and region buff on, and then she can engage the enemy. Those would be perfect. Horn Castle Gate would be a great map for Whisper. The really, really long maps, like the current Guild Wars map, Whisper actually struggles to get forward fast enough. She kind of runs out of things to do, and her team ends up passing her or staying right with her. A danger is that if her team stays with her and is right next to her, and then she catches an AoE from Black Rose Helena, who cares if she only takes 1 damage from that attack, if it one-shots your Ruinstern, or if it one-shots your Yuna, or something like that. So those are things to consider. Okay, so let's talk about some like positives and negatives. What does Whisper do well? What does she not do well? And let's give her some grades. As a tank, okay, her biggest limiting factors as a tank are her move and jump and her hate generation. Being a 3-1 move jump unit means she sometimes struggles to separate from her teammates, and you really want your tank to not be hugging it out with your DPS or your supports. You kind of saw how I rigged it on the current arena map to get her that separation, and you can do things like that so it doesn't completely hold her back, but it does force you to do sometimes suboptimal things with your other units. Then her hate generation being only from taunting spell, even though it's a really good ability, and even though it's in her best sub-job in my opinion, it is still a limiting factor. Sometimes in like a Guild Wars fight 2, she might not have any uses of it left, so that's something you have to worry about. However, you saw how effective she can be by building up those resists. It's very possible on her to build more than 1 resist up to nearly negligible numbers of damage, especially magic. She's such a good magic tank, you guys, with the ability to buff her own magic resist and give herself shell. It's so good. She's one of the better magic tanks in this game. I think Freyevia is probably a little better because of hate generation things, same with Rain, but Whisper is competing with them. As a physical tank, it's really gear, vision card, Esper dependent, but if you have the right stuff, she can build up to that I take 1 damage or 0 from a certain attack type, and that's fantastic. So she can really do the job as a tank. I'm going to give her a solid A- as a tank. As a bruiser, I mean, it's fun to be a debuffer. She does respectable damage, especially if she's chaining with somebody like Dwayne or Ruinstern, so she can do that. I'll give her like a B- in that category. And then as a PvE unit, I think she got a massive buff in PvE with her breaks, right? Like being able to CT down a raid boss, being able to break the defense, break the attack magic, stuff like that, break the agility of these big time bosses will be a very useful skill to have, especially since she's a dark slashing unit, and dark slash is probably the best PvE we have in the game. So there's my little Whisper video. I hope this was helpful for some people. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments. Hit the like button if you liked the video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.